Okay, Madam Clerk.
In order to participate in the City Council meeting virtually, please register to speak using the link on the agenda under public comment. To raise your hand to speak on a particular agenda item, please use the raise hand button in the Zoom meeting portal. If you are using a phone, please press *9 on your telephone keypad and then press *6 to unmute your phone. When it is your time to speak, you will be requested to unmute your microphone and speak for the time allotted by the mayor. Your microphone will be muted upon completion of your comments. Councilmember Aguilera Hernandez.
Here.
Councilmember Cordero.
Here.
Councilmember Escobedo.
Here.
Councilmember Soto.
Here.
Madam Mayor Patino.
Here. Our first item on tonight's agenda is a proclamation, and Councilmember Cordero will be making the presentation.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's a recognition of the Autism Awareness Day, and the proclamation starts with this. Whereas autism spectrum disorder is a developmental disorder characterized by behavior and communication tendencies that impact the person's ability to navigate social interactions, and whereas autism affects all persons regardless of race, religion, socioeconomic status, or geography, and whereas disparities in access to healthcare, education, and services have placed an undue burden on individuals with autism spectrum disorder and their loved ones. And whereas 1 in 44 children in the United States is diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder, and whereas individuals with autism and their families face tremendous and overwhelming challenges in accessing and navigating the complex programs and services for these disorders. And whereas early intervention can improve learning, communication, and social skills, as well as underlying brain developments. Now, therefore, Alice Patino, Mayor for the City of Santa Maria, hereby recognizes April 2nd, 2023 as National Autism Awareness Day in Santa Maria, and encourages businesses and residents to recognize the talents and abilities and contributions of individuals diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. This is witnessed by Madam Mayor, and she signed it on the 21st day of March 2023, and it also has the seal of the great city of Santa Maria affixed to it. And here to accept this is Christine Escobedo.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cordero, and to the entire City Council. Yes, I'm Kirsten Escobedo. I'm the Associate Superintendent of Special Education for the Santa Barbara County Education Office. And on behalf of Dr. Susan Salcido, Superintendent of Schools, I thank you very, very much for this recognition. I would also like to say a special thank you to Yesenia Hernandez of Alpha Resource Center for continuing to bring this forward and highlighting the importance of recognizing this day on behalf of all students and families within our county with autism. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next item is also a proclamation, and Councilmember Soto will be making the presentation.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Whereas Arbor Week is celebrated nationally to encourage Americans to maintain and replenish the country's vast forests, orchards, urban areas, and woodlands, and whereas the residents of Santa Maria recognize that trees are a vital resource in beautifying the community's environment by reliving our carbon footprint and serving as valuable economic assets in the city, maintaining or increasing property values and attracting businesses and new residents to Santa Maria. And whereas by educating children in the community of the importance of trees, the City of Santa Maria Recreation and Parks Department is working to ensure Arbor Day remains an important day to future generations and is coordinating activities with the local school districts to educate children on the many benefits trees provide, as well as the history of Arbor Day. And whereas through an Arbor Day proclamation, President Theodore Roosevelt announced, "A people without children will face a hopeless future," A country without trees is almost as hopeless. The president's message still rings true today, and whereas the city of Santa Maria acknowledges the state of California's proclamation encouraging a celebration of trees. Now therefore, the mayor, Alice Patino of the city of Santa Maria, hereby recognizes the week of March 7th, 2023 through March 14th, 2023 as Arbor Week in the city of Santa Maria, and invites all residents and businesses to celebrate and take part in the festivities of planting trees and acknowledging the important role trees have in the city and in our community.
Thank you.
Oh, and here to accept the proclamation is Ann Batterson and Rebecca Carey.
Thank you so much. It's good to see you. I just want to say a few words about what's going on with the tree situation in our town. It's a good time to be a tree in Santa Maria. We now have a city urban forest committee, which is dedicated to educating our community about the benefits of trees. The city of Santa Maria currently has 27,000 trees. Our ultimate goal is to plant 1,000 trees per year. We will meet or exceed that goal for the next 3 years. There's also a Facebook page dedicated to the trees of Santa Maria called Trees of Santa Maria. Anyway, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Our next item on the agenda this evening is a presentation of the businesses of the month, and Councilmember Aguilera Hernandez will be presenting the certificates along with Chamber CEO Glenn Morris.
Morning, Mayor, members of the council. It's a pleasure to be back again this month with our Business of the Month presentations. As you know, each month we bring you 2 businesses. This year we are focused on healthcare businesses and long-standing businesses in our community. And tonight we have 2 additional businesses that we want to introduce to you in the community. We'll start with our healthcare featured business, and that is the Wisdom Center. The Wisdom Center is an adult day health care center supporting elderly and those with disabilities in our community in their quest to be able to live within the community for as long as possible. Each day they provide services including physical and occupational therapy, nursing, social work, activities, socialization, meals, and transportation to and from the members' homes. Interestingly, of note, their services are free for eligible veterans and those with SENCAL benefits. The Wisdom Center has served our community now for over 20 years, and not long ago moved from a small business that was only licensed to serve about 60 people on a day to a new state-of-the-art building that can accommodate up to 180 participants each day. They tell me there's still room to grow, so if you have a family member or a neighbor or a friend in the community that would benefit from their services, I'm sure they would love a referral, right? They employ 20 people within our community, and I thought this little anecdote about their response to the recent COVID pandemic was indicative of the quality of program they offer. Obviously, a center of that nature was not going to continue to operate in-person services at the beginning of the pandemic, right, when everything was being shut down. Within a week of that shutdown order, they had reconfigured their services to continue interacting with their members in their homes, delivering meals, activity packets, and providing telehealth services by the nurses and social workers to ensure that everyone had what they needed during that time. They continued to provide meals, activities, and telehealth throughout the COVID-19 crisis. Mayor, members of the council, it is my pleasure to introduce, representing the Wisdom Center tonight, Victoria Griffith and Tanya Rael, 2 of their program managers.
Thank you. Yeah, so really the goal of our program is to keep people living in the community as long as possible. And how we do that is we have transportation to and from our center. We have a full physical therapy, occupational therapy program. We have 2 hot meals a day cooked in our center, nursing care, social services care. So really, we want to keep people active and alive in the community, and this also gives a break for our caregivers, so it gives caregiver relief. And we do have a new program that we just started, the ECM program. So I'll let Tanya say a little bit about that.
Hi, everyone. The ECM program is the Enhanced Care Management Program that has been recently rolled out by SunCal. We are serving the community in Santa Maria, and what it is a program that encompasses the ecological system of seeing the person in the environment. We service home. We do home visits, rate and assessment, and continue to case manage them based on their needs. We look at the 7 ecological aspects: medical, developmental, behavioral, community needs, social needs, any of that aspect, design a care plan for them and work with them in the community. It is a program that is paid by SunCal, and if they qualify, we're able to enroll them and continue to service them. We do a 6-month reassessment and continue to work with them more than likely for the remainder of the year through the years to come. So we welcome you and thank you for the award.
Excuse me, Tanya, what kind of activities do you guys do during the day with your club?
We have a full activities program, so everything really. We have an exercise program.
You have to come up to the podium. Yeah.
Yeah, so we have our activities director, and she does a full activities program, and this is geared towards people who do have cognitive delays and people who don't. So we do social hour, we try to do socializing, we do an exercise program, we do crafts, we are going to start incorporating community events, like going out in the community, maybe to the PCPA or something like that, but yes, we do have a full activities program.
Okay, so people can come and bring, say, their mother or their aunt or whatever, and they have activities during the day?
Yes,
Right, okay.
activities during the day.
So what time in the morning can they be there? What time do they have to leave? I mean, because
Yeah.
people in the community don't know about you.
Yeah,
So this
we're
is a
trying
good
to get
time to let us know.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So our hours right now are from 9 to 1. So we have our own buses, our transportation picks up the members and they bring them to the center. So at 9 o'clock, they start the activities program. Then we have breakfast served at 10. We continue with the activities, another meal again at noon for lunch, more activities, and then we take them home with our transportation services.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
You're welcome.
Madam Mayor,
Thank you. Yes, Mr.
yeah.
Cordero?
this is out on Depot, right?
Yeah, so
On
we
South
have
Depot?
a new building off of Broadway and McCoy on Depot, yes.
Okay.
And our services, he mentioned it, but if you have SunCal or veterans, if you qualify, they are free. Yeah.
I've been out there, it's been a couple of years, I think, but I was truly impressed by the amount of activities that people were able to do and the participation. They don't just sit there, you have them doing things, and I think that's probably what it's all about, is
Yeah, that's the goal.
keeping some of the older people
Healthy.
motivated.
Yeah, the goal is to keep them active, stimulated, really have a purpose. So it really serves the adults that attend the program, and then it really, really helps caregivers who care for them full-time, because they get that break during the day. So they get that chunk of time during the day where they can really take care of themselves. So it helps with the caregivers as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for
You're
what you
welcome.
did.
Okay, Mr. Morris? Thank you.
Very well. So a business that isn't perhaps as well known in the community, and now one that is probably much better known, at least the name will be familiar. And our long-standing business this month is Angle and Gray. Angle and Gray was started in 1946 when Carl Angle Sr. and Joe Gray got together and decided to start a business. The story goes that Carl was working for the oil company, Joe was running a gas station. Carl drove up one day and said, look, you want to join it? Why don't we start a trucking business? And Joe closed the doors, got in the truck, and that's the rest of the story, right? The company served the oil and gas industry for a number of years. And then in 1986, the second generation took over. Carl Jr. and Robert purchased the company and have been running it ever since. They recognized the transitions that were coming in the oil service business and began to diversify, starting with removing storage tanks. They began working with soil bioremediation to clean up environmental problems. And then in 1992 developed a cost-effective method for composting organic materials, which has evolved into the Angle and Gray Regional Compost Facility, which transforms a variety of organic feedstock from different waste streams into environmentally friendly harvest blend compost products. So today, Angle and Gray is a diverse transportation and waste recycling firm employing 33 individuals within our community. Like their father, Carl and Robert have continued to be active in local civic affairs, serving with the Elks Rodeo, with the Boys and Girls Club, the Santa Maria San Mateo District, Chamber of Commerce, the Economic Development Association, the United Way, Hancock Foundation, and in the case of Carl, with having recently completed service as an elected member of the Airport District Board. Mayor and members of the council, it's my pleasure to introduce to you, not that they need an introduction in this room, but Carl and Robert Angle from Angle and Gray.
Bob's going to make a few comments. I don't want to keep you.
Well, I was going to give you more than 3 minutes, Carly.
Well, we found a new service for Carl right across the street from our office, too. We're located, well, they're gone already, but we're right across the street on Betaravia Road, and the
Wisdom
Center
Yeah.
is right on Depot, right across from us on Betaravia. So, anyway, I'd like to thank you very much for recognizing us, the chamber and the city. We're proud to be members of the business community in Santa Maria for 77 years, and carrying on a family tradition of employing some great quality employees that we have working for us. Over the years, we've had them work for us for 33 years, 40 years, and now I think we have 12 years. Most of them, those have retired, but we got a whole new generation that are 12 and 15 years and show up every day and do some really great work with the heavy equipment and trucks and driving around and taking care of waste streams and recycling them into beautiful compost. So anyway, you know, International Compost Awareness Week is coming up in May, first week in May, and we look forward to being back here with some plants for you guys.
And we always look forward to seeing you in the plants too, Bobby. Yeah.
So thank you very much for this, and keep up the good work and making Santa Maria a business-friendly community to do work. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carly, and thank you, Bobby. Okay, and Carly, you're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting.
I would, but I have another engagement.
Madam Clerk, do we have any speakers this evening?
Did you want me to?
Yes, please read the,
Okay.
I crossed it off already, the agenda item for the public comment portion of the agenda.
This time is reserved to accept comments from the public on consent agenda items, closed session items, or matters not printed on the agenda this evening. Unless otherwise directed by the mayor or speaker, will have 3 minutes to comment. Direction to staff may be given. However, state law does not allow action to be taken on matters not on the printed agenda. Once the public comment period commences, no other speakers will be allowed to submit a request to speak form. And Madam Mayor, we have no speakers on Zoom, and we have one in
Here,
chamber.
thank you. Mr. Gary Hall. Good evening, Mr. Hall.
Madam Mayor, council members, staff, and Santa Maria citizens watching. My name is Gary Hall. I'm a resident of Rancho Buena Vista Mobile Estates at 2135 North Railroad Avenue here in Santa Maria. I represent the North Santa Barbara County Mobile Homeowners Team, or NSBIT. As I stated 2 weeks ago, I have been coming to this microphone for over 4 years, asking Santa Maria to join over 100 other California jurisdictions that have provided their mobile home park residents with protection from excessive rent increases, and in that way helped maintain affordable housing for their seniors and low-income citizens. Then, as you know, on June 7th, 2022, the Santa Maria City Council approved the following motion, and I quote, "Following council discussion and public input on motion, direction was given to staff to work with community members and park owners to examine enhancing the model lease agreement to see if there was room for improvements and to look at alternatives." Thank you again, Council Members Soto, Escobedo, and Cordero for passing this motion. Since its passage, the mobile home resident representatives have participated in 3 stakeholder meetings, and we have previously announced a real sense of progress. Our summary of issues and proposed solutions document that was delivered to city representatives on January 9th has prompted serious conversations and offers some guidance for possible improvements to the existing model lease. The February 22nd stakeholder meeting produced some genuine optimism. Thank you, Council Members Soto and Escobedo, Assistant City Manager Hackelman, and Assistant City Attorney, lost my place, Patrick, for being willing to listen and to allow mutually respectful conversation to move forward. Follow-up meetings were tentatively scheduled for this month, including a joint meeting with the park owner representatives. However, that schedule appears to be changing. Our overall goal for the mobile home residents remains to provide to all Santa Maria mobile home residents presently living in an unregulated rental market where the current model lease program has been ineffective in protecting homeowner equity and maintaining affordable mobile home housing. We continue to believe our goal is achievable. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we move on, Mr. Stillwell, did you wish to make any comments? Okay. Moving on to the consent calendar, Madam Clerk, could you please read the description?
Routine items are presented for City Council approval without discussion as a single agenda item in order to expedite the meeting. The consent calendar is approved by roll call vote with one motion. These items are discussed only on the request of council members.
Does anyone have items they wish to pull for discussion? Okay, do I have a motion to approve in the consent calendar?
I'll move.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Having heard the motion and second, any discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Councilmember Escobedo.
Yes.
Councilmember Soto.
Aye.
Councilmember Aguilera Hernandez.
Aye.
Councilmember Cordero.
Aye.
Madam Mayor Patino.
Aye. Next is the user fee update that is being rescheduled at the request of staff and notice for the April 4th City Council meeting. No comments will be accepted on this item at this time. Okay. Our next item will be a regular business item. Madam Clerk, could you please read the title?
The City Council will receive a presentation on the Measure U annual report for the period ending June 30th, 2022.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and
Good evening, Mr. Hackelman.
council members. So here we are today, about a year later. We're here to report to you from the Committee for Measure U Oversight. And this is a really important task that's undertaken by members of our community to provide oversight for the Measure U tax that we have. And this tax is very important for maintaining and enhancing critical services that we provide to our residents. So for public safety, quality of life, and youth services. And we follow the direction of council and how these funds from Measure U are budgeted and spent proportionally on these areas. So 90% for public safety, 5% for youth services, and 5% for quality of life. And here today to discuss the questions and findings and general conclusions of the Oversight Committee is Vice Chair Jack Owen of the Measure U Oversight Committee. Mr. Owen?
Good evening, Mr. Owen.
Good evening, Mayor. We have, the committee met on January 23rd and reviewed a draft unaudited Measure U financial statements, including presentations by Mr. Hackelman and Finance Director Mary Harvey. First thing I want to say is those presentations were amazing. It takes pages of numbers, millions of dollars and 10,000 here and 100,000 there. It takes all these numbers and crunches them down into something that was very understandable, very readable, and it's a continuous thing. Every year they come up with the same great presentations, so we know how many dollars came in, how many dollars went out. Second thing, I'd like to thank the community for their confidence in the city and passing Measure U. So on 23rd of January, we had our overview. There was minimal discussion. We pretty much understood everything that was coming and going. So on February 27th, the committee reconvened. We voted and approved on the letter you have. And we did find that all the expenditures made regarding Measure U were in compliance with City Council's intent and purpose for said tax proceeds. Due to a tight labor market, the split was a little different this year. 91% went to public safety, 4% to youth services, and 5% to quality of life. The 4% for youth services had to do with the youth services programs not having any instructors and people available. The job market just didn't seem to provide enough people to take care of all the programs that were planned. So that's basically my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Owen. Any questions? Okay. Ms. Soto?
You mentioned that 4% was used for youth safety instead of the 5% because of, I'm assuming, the vacancies, correct? The vacancies that we had within the Recreation and Parks Department?
Yes, I believe it's primarily Recreation and Parks, and they had some difficulties in recruiting people to take care of some of the programs they had planned.
When things of that nature occur, when we are unable to fill vacancies, is there a way in which we can still ensure that we fulfill the breakdown of percentages, like the 5% of youth services, to ensure that that money is being spent like it was originally written out to be spent? I know it's a 1% difference, but I'm curious what we can do to avoid something like this in the future, or to avoid it from decreasing any further.
I'd have to defer to the city manager or assistant city manager for that question.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Owen and Councilmember Soto through the mayor. So the money isn't spent. It drops down into the fund balance and is available for appropriation by the council in the upcoming budget.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
And I know there were things that we couldn't attend because of the COVID too. So it's sort of, if we planned a trip and then we were, for instance, we were supposed to go to the Botanic Garden in Santa Barbara and they wouldn't let us go, when they wouldn't let us in. So every now and then, things like that happened. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Owen, appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Hackelman. Madam Clerk, do we have any written correspondence or requests to speak?
No, Madam Mayor, we do not.
I'll bring this item back to the council. Any discussion? Thank you. So the report, it just needs to be received and filed. Our next item is another regular business item. Madam Clerk, could you please read the title?
The City Council will consider the 2022 General Plan Annual Report.
Staff report is to be made by Director of Community Development, Mr. Ng.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council. This is a presentation on the General Plan Annual Report. I've prepared one slide for this presentation. It's a table. I'll explain it in detail a little bit later. This item is usually on the consent calendar. It's a report that we send to the state, Office of Planning and Research, and HCD, Housing and Community Development. But I wanted to bring this before you through regular business because in this reporting period, we're at the last year of our 5th cycle housing element. So as you may be aware, cities are required to adopt a housing element that's state mandated, and there's a regional housing needs allocation that's assigned to each jurisdiction. And so I wanted to give you an update on our progress in the city's effort in meeting the regional housing needs allocation. I'll note that this report was prepared by one of our planners, Cody Grable. He's in the audience. He did a nice job on this report. Anytime you prepare a state report, it requires some extra effort. So this was good. So the General Plan Annual Report is really more a housing element annual report. We talk about the General Plan. The General Plan is the vision document for the city. The housing element's one chapter of the General Plan. And it's the one chapter that is reviewed by the state every year through our progress reports on how much housing we're building in meeting the overall goal. So if you look at the table on this slide, there's a column on the left that's in green. And that's the RHNA, Regional Housing Needs, by income level. So for 5th cycle housing element, we were assigned 4,102 housing units to be built between the years of 2015 and 2022. It actually includes 2 months of 2023. So we just finished the end of the 5th cycle. And so, again, what's been assigned to us is 4,102, and this is broken down by 4 income levels. The very low income category, the low income category, the moderate income category, and above moderate income category. You can see the distribution of the housing units by income category. We as a city have been assigned 985 housing units within the very low income category, 656 units within the low income category, 730 units within the moderate income category, and 1,731 housing units within the above moderate income category. As you may be aware, the rent prices and sell prices of housing units are typically determined by market forces. The only way in which we're able to count housing units towards a certain income level is whether they are deed restricted to be for rent or for sale at a certain income level, or whether we can provide the justification that the market rate rent prices or sell prices are indeed within that income category. So between 2015 and 2022, you can see the breakdown of our achievements towards housing in each of these income categories. And I'll just call out the very low income category as an example. So we've been assigned 985 housing units within the very low income category, and within the last 7-8 years, we've only been able to build 193. So we fall short on the very low income category. And you may think, well, what projects make up these 193 units? I'll name a few. Santa Maria Studios, that's the one that's being built on Miller and Santa Maria Way. There are a very low income senior housing within the very low income category in that project. Cox Cottages on Blosser, that is a housing project with very low income units. Los Adobes de Maria by People Self-Help, that was built in 2016. That also offered 27 very low income housing units. But even with those projects, it still falls short. Now, with that said, we well exceeded our number for the low income category. We were allocated 656 units within the low income category. We have issued permits for 1,776. And numerous projects make up these numbers: Centennial Gardens, Centennial Square, and also many of our ADUs we've been able to justify as within the low income category. This is primarily because ADUs tend to be on the smaller side, and based on a survey of their typical rent prices, we've been able to justify them as within the low income category. We've also been able to meet.
Excuse me, Mr.
Yes.
Ing, 1 minute. Mr. Escobedo has a
Thank
question.
you, Madam Mayor. Question, you mentioned that ADUs would be counted on that category?
Correct.
Is that correct? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Just wanted to double check. Thank you.
And just as information, within the last 5 years or so, the ADUs have really picked up just within the last couple of years. But within the last 5 years, we've issued permits for ADUs upwards of almost 1,200. So of these numbers here, you can see the deed-restricted housing units within the low-income category. Those are the apartment projects that we have. The non-deed restricted within the last 5 years or so, those are primarily ADUs.
I have a question about ADUs.
Yes.
Does the state dictate that ADUs go in the low or very low? Who dictates where we count those towards?
The jurisdiction has to provide evidence that the rent prices fall within that range. So it may depend on the city that the units are in. So a rent price for an ADU in Santa Barbara may be different than the rent price for an ADU in Santa Maria.
How do we know what the ADUs are renting for?
We conduct a survey. So that may be looking at rent listings or asking a property owner when they come to the counter and just kind of informally asking them what they're charging. So the other income category that we have, the above moderate, we fall short on the above moderate income category. Our allocation is 1,731. We were able to issue permits and for 1,114. Many of our single-family homes are within the above moderate income category. So if you think of the last 7-8 years and of the single-family construction that we've had, whether it's Heritage or Harvest and Gardens, any type of single-family development tends to fall within the above moderate income category, but also some multifamily apartments, Azure apartments over by Costco, that's because they're not deed-restricted apartments, they fall in the above moderate income category. But again, the city did fall short. However, in total, in attempting to meet the 4,100 figure, the city actually came very close. So up to the end of 2022, our number was 3,867. So we're only a couple hundred units off from the 4102 figure. And if we were to include January of 2023, I'm aware that we've issued 42 more permits in January 2023, and that goes up to 3,909. And there's just one more month that I need to count, but we weren't able to compile the numbers for February 2023. I don't think we'll hit the 4,100 figure, but we're going to come awfully close. The unfortunate part is that even though we may be nearly meeting our allocation number, we're not meeting it within two of the income categories, which still means that we may be subject to state preemptive statutes such as SB 35 that will allow a housing developer to obtain building permits and to bypass the discretionary process because we haven't met the targets for specific income levels.
I have a question about that. So if we were meeting the levels, we wouldn't be subject to SB 35 if we had actually met all the categories?
Yes, that's correct. So in short and in summary, I wanted the council members to have a good understanding of where the city stood in terms of meeting the state's regional housing needs allocation. And the takeaways are that we come very, very close. And I think that's a lot better than what a lot of other cities are able to do. And the fact that we're able to exceed the numbers for the low income category and the moderate income category, it is an achievement. It does, the fact that we're not building enough above moderate housing units also suggests that we need to build or encourage more housing in the above moderate income category. This concludes staff's presentation. There are some recommendations within the staff report that the council receives this report and direct it to be filed with state OPR and HCD. I welcome any additional questions you may have.
Any questions of Mr. Ng?
Yes.
Ms. Aguilera?
What can we do to meet the very low and above moderate goals?
Well, you know what, and I've had conversations with Mr. Ng because could you explain who builds that very, very low? Right. And how it's not really a number that we can even attain. And so it's a sort of a lose-lose when we come into it. Anyway, go ahead, Mr. Ng, you can explain that.
Sure. Madam Mayor, Councilmember Aguilera Hernandez, it is difficult to achieve housing units within the very low income category. They're typically built by affordable housing developers, whether it's People's Self-Help or Housing Authority, developers that leverage tax credits to fund these projects. Usually these projects are designed for seniors or special needs population groups. And we have a few, such as Cox Cottages or Santa Maria Studios, but we just don't have 985 units worth. We have 193 over the past 8 years. So it's a difficult number to achieve.
So in terms of, this is really based on these agencies or developers coming forward with these projects, correct?
Yeah. The housing units that are within the very low income category, they would almost have to be deed restricted, because no market rate, no property owner will set their market rate rent at a very low income level because they wouldn't make any money. But to have enough of affordable housing developers produce enough deed-restricted housing units, 985 is a very high number to achieve.
So my question was, we really don't have control over that then, as
Very
a city?
little. Correct.
What they do is like People's Self-Help Housing or the Housing Authority will come and they will find maybe property, and then they have to, and I've asked them, so how do you fund it? And they put together all these funding streams that they said was very confusing, and they didn't even understand it. They put together all these funding streams in order to build this very low housing. Yes.
Thank you.
Ms. Soto?
You mentioned that there are two ways in which cities can meet these RENA numbers. One of the ways you mentioned was restricting new developments at certain income levels, correct? So can you give me an example of what a policy like that would look like, or what other cities have implemented when it comes to restricting new developments at a certain income level?
Yes. Madam Mayor, Councilmember Soto, some cities do have what they call an inclusionary housing policy, in which they would require a developer to set aside a certain percentage of housing units and to control the rent price or sell price at a certain income level. That's usually done in exchange of some other incentive, or in some ways they're just a requirement. Density bonus law also allows for set aside of housing units at certain income levels. That's usually in exchange for additional density for the project.
Would the SB 35 that's out there, would that be considered the density bonus when they build that?
No, that's they could have, but
But they didn't have to.
Right, they didn't have to.
Because that they didn't have to have permission from the planning commission. They didn't have to have permission from the city council. The state just came in and did it. So, yeah. Okay.
So you
Thank
answered my question about the very low, but what about the above moderate? How would we meet those numbers? Or what can the city do?
Madam Mayor, Councilmember, ensure that there's enough land inventory and so that we have projects that can be built. So ensuring that, and so for the above moderate income category, again, they tend to be in the single family home. Single family homes tend to be in the above moderate category. Just ensuring that there's enough land inventory for future housing.
Do you know if we have enough land available?
We've been looking at this through our comprehensive general plan update process. And so when we project out to 2045, we've been looking at our existing land use inventory, and the inventory is pretty limited. The City Council will get a presentation on this topic in the next couple of months. But depending on the density in which we plan for future housing, the land within the existing boundaries theoretically could accommodate future housing, but it would have to be some type of infill housing. But again, the infill housing, there would be higher density. They may not be the single-family product that you may need to achieve housing in the above moderate income category. So there are other scenarios that include expansion of the city boundary to include additional land that would provide the land inventory necessary for the right number of future housing.
And does that, so I guess what you're talking about is annexation.
Correct.
And so does that require us to look at the cost of the land and whether we're required to purchase land to have it available?
This would be on, private property owners and private developers.
And I sit on the LAFCO board, and I also sit on SBCAG, and Santa Maria is doing the best of anyone in the county. It's amazing, and we really are. Good or bad, but you've got cities like Carpinteria, they just don't have any place to build anything, and they're not meeting their numbers in any category at all, and they have no place to build. And there's some communities that don't want to build, and I make it very clear, we want to build, but we just want to do it our way and keep the state out of it, but.
Yep.
Mr. Cordero.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Ng, these numbers, I think, admittedly, at least my understanding is they're going to be very difficult for anybody to meet. Do you know of any community in your dealings that is meeting all these RENA numbers?
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Cordero, there is a very short list. I think out of over 500 plus jurisdictions, there are 38 jurisdictions that are meeting their numbers. And then there are another roughly, it's another 500 almost that are not.
Thank you. So we're in the larger group?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
And I know there's lawsuits going on, and there's cities that are complaining about the RENA numbers because they're having a hard time meeting them. So it's, you know, I'm not sure who the guy is in this little cubicle up in Sacramento who decided what the RENA numbers should be, but it's very, very difficult for these cities to meet that. But anyway.
He doesn't want anybody to know who he is.
He does not. He does not. I can't even communicate with him.
Well,
Go ahead.
I just find it odd that they're saying you have to meet this number when we don't even have the land to be able to accommodate, let's just talk about the above moderate. So they're going to force us to do something that we physically cannot do. That just doesn't sound right.
You're right.
And so
your assessment is right.
And so the very low as well, we can't force your people self-housing or other entities to come and build these types of deed-restricted homes either. And so forcing the cities to meet these numbers when we physically have no control just seems unfair and unrealistic in terms of holding us to that standard.
What we need there is an attorney to take this on at the state level.
I don't know any.
Ms. Soto?
Yeah, I appreciate all the comments that were made on the dais, and I agree that it is frustrating to see the state of California imposing these, setting these goals for us that are very difficult to achieve. However, I also want to take a moment to applaud the efforts of the city, the business community, the development community for also aiding us in what we have been able to achieve thus far. And I would also like for the city to also take a moment, and the council members here on the dais to take a moment to also think about what are some things that we could do to continue to enhance and the progress that we've made thus far when it comes to housing development. And so some of the examples that Mr. Ng gave about what other cities have done to work towards achieving a closer or reducing the gap when it comes to our RENA numbers is something that I would be very open and would encourage this council to actually do. When we're talking about reducing homelessness, when we're talking about ensuring that we have housing that is available to folks in all income levels, it's important that we think of innovative policies that can help us achieve that goal. And part of the city council strategic plan, or part of the plan, part of our priorities that we set, what was it, two years ago, was really around housing and housing affordability. And so I want to thank Mr. Ng for bringing forward some solutions and policies that others say. I know that it wasn't a staff recommendation. I don't want to put words into anybody's mouth, but I do appreciate him sharing that other cities have put in place inclusionary housing ordinances where they set a percentage of new developments aside to be of certain income levels, or even looking at how we can further density bonus laws in the city of Santa Maria. And so I would definitely want, I definitely want this council to take this moment, this opportunity that we have now as we're looking at this general plan annual report, to consider, what are some things that we can do to get us closer to meeting those RENA numbers. Although they seem unrealistic, there are things that we can do to help narrow the gap that currently exists. And I know that Councilmember Escobedo is very passionate about housing affordability. Councilmember Aguilera Hernandez is as well. And so again, really encouraging this council to really consider, what would an inclusionary housing ordinance look like here in the city of Santa Maria.
And, you know, we have done this over the years. In fact, the city of Santa Maria has done more than any other city in the county when it comes to low-income housing, and most of it has been done here in Santa Maria. And we have the Adobe Santa Maria, and we have others that People Self-Help Housing and the Housing Authority have built. We've also done the efficiency apartments when we've taken the old motels on North Broadway, and we have, every opportunity that we have had to do that, we have been able to do that. And the last time I spoke to the Housing Authority, and I did, and this has been about 2 or 3 years ago, I said, where can we go next? And they've been looking at properties, but they couldn't find any. So are we going, and the difficulty, as Mr. Ng said, is the infill. So, you know, we have to figure out, you know, if we're going to go out, where are we going to go? If we're going to go out, where are we going to go? And last month, Lompoc wanted to annex a piece of property into their city limits because they really, really need to build. And they couldn't get LAFCO to even support that. And they have little spots here and there for infill. But, and I don't know how much they have. Some people said we don't have any, and some people say we just maybe just a few places here and there, but they are really in dire straits.
Would it be possible, Madam Mayor, for us to receive a presentation on what inclusionary housing is, or what an inclusionary housing ordinance would look like here in the city of Santa Maria, or just a presentation on what it is? I'd love to learn more.
Does inclusionary housing, though, mean that it's not going to take care of the low income?
Well, I just want to learn more
Yeah.
about it, and so I would love to receive a presentation and have all of my colleagues
Yes,
receive
Mr.
one as
Stillwell.
well.
I'd want to, we would do what the council's pleasure is, but I'd want to reiterate what Mr. Ng mentioned, that a lot of this information is groundwork to help as you see the general plan coming forward. And the general plan is going to have multiple ways to try to reach these goals. And as you're looking at the different ways to reach those goals, different tools may become more applicable. And so we can do what the pleasure of the council is, but I'd suggest, and I think what Mr. Ng was implying is, let's look at those tools within the context of the whole general plan. Because if you're looking at trying to only do infill, that's a certain set of tools. If we're going to annex from Guadalupe to Casmelia to Fox and Canyon, as I would advocate, that's a different set of tools. So, but, yeah.
I would like to take the time sitting on the planning commission for the last 8 years. The planning department works very hard trying to get projects approved. So I know Santa Maria has done a lot of work that other cities in California haven't. And so I do want to commend the department for doing that, and the city as a whole for working on that, because I was part of it, so I actually saw it firsthand. And so I do hope that we can move forward and find ways to meet the goals.
Thank you. Mr. Escobedo.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And definitely, I think it's important to see it. I think that the bigger the picture, the better, and how we can, make a step back and see what other options are available up there that can help us to meet this goal, which absolutely sounds, it maybe seem unrealistic, but I think it's our duty as council to try to get it, because then there's other, it's a working process, and definitely it can be very frustrating not to have, it is very frustrating to not have control of how we expand, what we build, and all that kind of stuff that it just, we've been here sitting sometimes and talking about things that we didn't have control, and it's just, boy. I think it's important now that we're working on the general project to see as many options as possible and see what can be done, and to build quality housing, and I think it's try to reach those goals.
When are we getting a report on the general plan update?
Yeah.
2 months.
About 2 months. Okay, that'd be good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cordero, any comments?
Well, yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. These are certainly important elements that we need to look at for all members of our community. And I'm speaking primarily about income. But we have to look at what supports the city also. And these single-family dwellings that have, in today's market, they're $700,000 or $800,000. That person or persons that are living in that house are probably making upwards of a couple $100,000 a year, and we're supported by taxes. So we need to build, we can't just build all of the very low income or moderate, but you, on the other hand, you can't build above moderate only. I mean, it has to grow with a strategy involved so that we're not going to end up deficient in one area or the next. And I think that's what you're trying to do.
Thank you, Mr. Ng. Okay, so we'll hear it in a couple of months and figure out what, and you can give us all the answers in a couple of months,
Yeah.
Mr. Ng?
Madam Mayor.
Very much appreciated. Thank you, and thank you for the good report. Madam Clerk, do we have any written correspondence?
No, Madam Mayor, we do
Any
not.
requests to speak?
No, Madam Mayor, we do not.
I'll bring this item back to the council for discussion. Oh, and do I have a motion?
I move that we accept the report.
Do I have a second? Second. I have a motion and a second to receive the 2022 General Plan Annual Update Report and direct the filing of the report with the appropriate agencies. And so, Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Councilmember Aguilera Hernandez? Yes. Councilmember Soto? Aye. Councilmember Escobedo?
Aye.
Councilmember Cordero?
Aye.
Madam Mayor Patino?
Aye. We have another regular business item. Madam Clerk, would you please read the title?
The City Council will discuss councilmember compensation and provide direction to staff.
Okay, and the staff report is being made by City Manager, Mr. Stillwell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. This item's on the agenda per the request of the City Council. Having it on the agenda enables the City Council to discuss City Council compensation and provide staff guidance or direction for next steps. The City Council periodically reviews and updates its compensation as provided for in state law and the City of Santa Maria Municipal Code. The City Council has increased its compensation 6 times in the last 4 decades, most recently on March 22nd, 2022, which became effective December 31st, 2022, to the current level of $1,706.90 per month, with an additional $250 per month for the mayor. The budget for the City Council adopted this year is $196,221, of which $157,000 is compensation and benefits, and we anticipate the budget to be fully spent this fiscal year. And according to Government Code 36516.5, any salary increase may take effect only when at least one member of the City Council commences a new term. And staff's here to answer any questions or receive any direction that the City Council may have on this item.
Okay, questions from the council?
I don't have any questions, Madam
Okay.
Mayor. I think that I have no questions or problems with what is going on today.
Okay. Madam Clerk, do we have any written correspondence or requests to speak?
We have no written communications, but we have one request to speak in chambers and none on Zoom.
Okay. And Gary Hall. Good evening again, Mr. Hall.
Good evening again. This may surprise you, but I have positive things to say. I want to thank you for your service. I know you put in long and vigorous hours in support of this community. An increase in compensation is no doubt due based on the history of lack of increases. Inflation affects City Council members just like it does us mobile home residents. And we all need to do what we can to both control our expenses and to optimize our income. I support this income increase. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'll bring it back to council for discussion.
Madam Mayor,
Mr. Cordero?
thank you. Madam Mayor, I can't support this increase. I thank people like Mr. Hall for recognizing that, but I took this position as a public servant, and I never anticipated it would be for the purposes of trying to make a living at. And I believe that the money that is received makes it so that it doesn't cost us anything if you're using your funds strategically. It doesn't really cost me anything to attend my meetings, to drive where I have to drive. For instance, this Thursday, I'll be attending a meeting in Buellton, and shortly I'll be attending another one in Monterey, as you know. So I don't really have to pay out of my pocket or our household funds. And occasionally, not real often, but occasionally I'll meet with a constituent for some reason or another, and I try not to allow the constituents to pay for anything if I'm going to meet. And I pretty much insist that I pay. It's their money, is the way I see it. So I can't support raising something like this. And I'm likely going to vote against something like this in the event that it comes to that. It may pass, but I'll do something else with the money in order to satisfy myself and my family, my wife and I. So I'm just not in favor of it.
Yeah.
Is there a recommendation to increase the salary?
There isn't. This is
Okay,
just with the discussion, so it's just discussion time.
So I think that in terms of the type of council member, so if somebody is retired and they don't have a job, then it doesn't cost them anything. But if you want young professionals who may have conflicts or who are business owners, it does cost them the time. And so in that sense, what is the value of time for someone who may not be able to serve on the council because they have a young family or they just don't have the resources to be able to do that? And so if we want young professionals to serve on the council, we do have to start talking about valuing the time, because that is where society is going. It is getting very expensive to live in California on the Central Coast. And so in terms of what the city council wants to do moving forward, because this wouldn't even come into effect until 2 years from now when we would have another sitting council member. And so what do we want to see in the future is really how is the council made up? And so that's where I've talked to people, young professionals in the community, and they've said, hey, that's great that you're doing city council. I just can't afford to do that because I have to feed my family. I have a young family. I have to work. But if it actually paid even a living wage, I would do it. And these are business people who would just do a really good job serving on the council. And that's where there is a trade-off in terms of, do we increase? And you look at the other cities, Santa Barbara as an example, they pay their council members $75,000. So we're bigger than they are. We have more residents to keep track of. And so that's where it looks, the city needs to look at what are we valuing and what is the message that we want to send for the future. It's not something we would be doing right now for us. It's really, what do we want to do for the future council members?
Okay. Ms. Sarah, do you have a comment?
In this, Councilmember Aguilera Hernandez, you mentioned that the City of Santa Barbara compensates their council members at, you said 72,000? 75 annually.
Yeah, it's in the
Annually?
staff report.
Yeah,
Seniors, yeah.
4204. 4204. I'm assuming that's biweekly. I'm assuming, so I guess my question is, one, what is a living wage in your view? And two, how would the roles and responsibilities of the council member change? Because in Santa Barbara, it's, my understanding is that it's considered like a part-time position, whereas here in the city of Santa Maria, it's seen as voluntary service to the community with a stipend. Correct, that's my understanding of how it's seen here.
And so in terms of the time, I believe it does, if you look at the time it takes, it is a part-time job, right? Going to the housing meetings, preparing for the council meetings, sitting at the council meetings, going to the different committees, meeting with the residents. You are looking at a part-time if you are spending the time to do that, or maybe even more. I know the mayor works more than 40 hours a week. That is a full-time job. She has more energy than I do. And so in terms of, if we start to look at time, that means the mayor's job would be a full-time job, right? And so I think that's what we're talking about.
And what would be considered a living wage, because 4204 comes out to about a little bit over 50,000 a year, and I don't consider that being living wage.
What do you consider a living wage?
It has to be over, I mean, when you look at the city of Santa Maria, and you're looking at housing prices, I mean, we would have to do that calculation, but I don't believe $50,000 is living wage when you're looking at rentals for one studio apartments going for $2,100 a month.
So you think it's higher than 50,000?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Unless you want it to be a part-time position.
Okay.
And then there needs to be clarity. I would want clarity on how the roles and responsibilities would change. Like, what is the new, what would be the expectation?
I think that's a fair analysis
question.
on both parts. And I think we're going there, Madam Mayor. I think that our our positions are going to be there someday, undoubtedly. I just, and I think probably Ms. Soto has some excellent comments about it. And as soon as you said that, I'm immediately going to like 100 in order to if you're talking about a living wage, and you know, you're hitting $100,000 a year. And when I think of that, explaining to somebody that's out here, like Mr. Hall's group of people, perhaps not him specifically, but some of the people there, that I'm sitting up here collecting $100,000 a year or $75,000 a year, and these poor folks are making decisions of whether to have food or medication. And so I can't do that myself today. And I think that we're going there. Someday that's going to happen. But as of today, right now, not with my vote. I just can't bring myself to do that. I think the money should be spent elsewhere in our community at this point in time. And probably one of the biggest hurdles is going to be what changes take place and what demands we have a right to make. And if you're an elected official, I think that gets very convoluted. You know, where we can require things and say, well, I'm an elected official. What are you going to do about it? And I think you're going to run into that person someday. Maybe not at this dais, but you will run into that person. Once you're an elected official, there's the rules change for all of us. So,
Can you clarify that? You mean as far as responsibilities and
Yes.
fulfilling those responsibilities? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And going back to what Councilmember Cordero is, the rule or the law does allow a council member who isn't comfortable with it to waive. I am just saying in terms of having working professionals, if we want them to be able to serve, and as I've talked to people in the community, I've heard of that multiple times.
I have also. So it's not new information. You're getting a rerun.
Right.
Ms. Soto?
Thank you, Mayor. And I mean, I appreciate the conversation and the points that you're bringing up, because when we think about how can we encourage working class folks to say yes to serving their community in this capacity, what can we do as a local government to welcome that want of wanting to serve? How can we welcome that? And so, you know, I feel like for me at the moment, it is worth continuing to explore. But I feel I want more information as to like, how would the roles and responsibilities shift? At this moment, like I said, the way that our city is set up to be is where elected city council members are more on a volunteer basis, and you know, we have to continue to work full-time outside to be able to pay the bills, and so it's definitely a balance. And so, not that I'm not opposed, I just feel like at the moment, I have more questions that I want to see explored.
Okay, and so do we give it to,
Mr. Escobedo.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Definitely, I mean, the current code allowed us to increase our salaries, but is it justified? And is it the, you know, do we need to go through that direction? And I've never, and I will never become a public servant for the money. That's not an incentive for me. It just feels good to be able to serve. And I know that, you know, and I hear in the conversation, and if it's something that the council member consider that it's important to discuss and keep having this, I think it's what I would recommend or put in the table is having the community decide, maybe put together a residents group that can investigate and look into, is it justified that a council member can raise, what it would look like, what the community would want from us in exchange of that. And then, and also I would like to take recommendation for a city attorney about waiting until the next cycle to if something happened, it's not us giving us raises. So I think I would recommend, I would put that on the table, having a residents-based group that can bring a report and say, hey, you guys, it's not justified, it's this, and then we'll bring it back and we'll start having more conversation and debates. If that's something that council members want to hear, might be something that you will be interested in.
I also want to, with what you just mentioned, Councilmember Escobedo, what's also coming to mind is our budget, like our budgetary process. And we adopted a new budget, what was it, last year in 2022? Am I correct? 2022?
Sure.
And so our next budgetary cycle for like our new budget for adoption would be in 2024. And so that along with the, what was it, the user fee schedule, I know that, so there's a couple of things that are also coming up for me, and I'll be fully transparent with this council. One is, oh, thank you, Rhonda, I'm so sorry. One is when we're looking at user fees, and this sense of the city is not getting full cost recovery for the services that it's providing when it comes to user fees, when it comes to developer fees. And so that is something that weighs heavy on me. Two, there's already a budget that's been adopted. There was a lengthy process that went into that. And we also just recently, the council recently approved a pay increase a couple of months ago that went into effect in January. So knowing those things and having those things in mind that, again, user fees, we're not at full cost recovery. Our next budget cycle is not until 2024. A part of me is kind of also considering, like, would it be appropriate for us to, keep this conversation in mind and possibly table it once our new budget process comes ahead? Because I want to know what the fiscal impacts will be to the city's budget, which was a lengthy process. It's a lengthy process as it is. There's a lot of, effort that goes into it, and that along with, and I don't know if the city attorney is going to slap me in the wrist right now, but auto contract negotiations, and I kind of feel a part of me is like, until we make sure that public safety, our service workers, like everybody's in a good spot, I think that then I would feel comfortable also thinking about the city council and thinking about it more in a holistic manner, as we're also considering the entirety of the budget, but knowing that this is something that we should be working towards. Like, how do we make sure that in the future, right, those who want to serve and who are elected to office don't have to decide, do I take a pay cut to serve my community? Because that is not a sacrifice that people should have to make to be of service. And so, but I also want to honor the next steps that are coming for the city, I guess is what I'm saying, like the budget process, user fee schedules, negotiations, all of the things which will have such an immense impact on the city's budget.
Right, and it's...
Mr. Stillwell, just off the top of your head, if we say, suppose we say we wanted to do what Santa Barbara's doing, so what would that cost the city a year? About $500,000? Okay. I understand where Mr. Cordero's coming from, because I ran for office because I feel I love my community, and there's things I wanted to do to help my community. But I've done that for years and years. So running for office was just one more thing that I chose to do, and that, whether it was baking cakes and doing fundraisers at school or helping out with the FFA or whatever I did. But it was just another step in those things that I felt, I wanted to do. I really feel that we're going to get there. We probably will get there. I don't know when. And the cost and how much it's going to cost. And right now, excuse me, right now, I don't see that money there right now. I think that after this discussion, we're all going to get some calls and emails with people, and a lot of people are going to feel like Mr. Hall said tonight, be in agreement with that. But when, I guess, is my thoughts. It does cost you money to be on the council. You go places, you have to meet, you have lunches, you can't always be wearing jeans, and just different things like that. But it's certainly worth the discussion. I think we have to have the discussion. We're going to be having a retreat coming up soon. I think it'll be a good time to just sit down and be able to discuss that. And like you say, there's a lot of other things that are coming up, and every year it costs us more and more to run the city. And we're very frugal here in Santa Maria. Let's face it, when we do our budget, we're very, very frugal. So, and Ms. Aguilera, you had a comment?
Yeah, so I don't know if it's good to defer it to, when is the budget meetings?
So we do the mid-cycle in May for June adoption, and then we'll do the full cycle, as Councilmember Soto said, next May for July 1.
Yeah.
So maybe if we could defer this, so at least it gives us all time to think about what we want to do, and then really put some thought into, because this wouldn't even be coming into effect until 2 years from now, minimum. So I think it may be a good item to bring up with the budget is it 2 months?
As an amendment to the budget?
No, just to discuss. So your concern is that you want to make sure all the departments have all the money they need. Only then would the city council say, okay, maybe we should be paid, maybe not what Santa Barbara's making, but
work
a
towards
little bit, but work towards something. Towards your goal of 100,000
I don't know what the goal is for the city.
excessive to me, but, if that's what the council thinks for people in the future, I just want to make sure that this stays in
Top of
our
mind.
top of mind, and for the future, when we're talking about budgets and how much money there is for the council members.
Okay. Is that direction enough for you? Okay. Mr. Escobar?
So yeah, just want to make sure that I would like to emphasize the part that what I mentioned about.
Who?
What I mentioned about. I think it would be more appropriate to put it on, defer that to a group of residents or from Santa Maria that can look into, this topic, and then bring it back to the council. If that's, I personally, I wouldn't be comfortable us talking about the topic and just saying that yes. So I definitely will, if something happens, if it justifies, whatever, I think it would be more appropriate for the community, because at the end of the day, it's our constituents' money to decide if that's, if the race exists, if it justifies, or how it would look like. Just want to share that.
Okay. And there's also the ability to put it on a ballot, to have a ballot measure, which is even, that actually goes out to the community, so.
And
Ms.
I
Soto?
mean, just to clarify, if you ask me what a living wage is, yes, I will give you my thoughts on that. But that's not to say that that's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm proposing as a recommendation, I
Okay.
guess is what I'm saying. I was asking what is living wage, because
Yeah.
that was the conversation that was brought up. But I also think that it's important that, again, if this is something we're going to work towards, again, clarity around roles and responsibilities for council members, how will this, what that would look like, what is the goal, what is the outcome that we're trying to achieve by even having this discussion in the first place. And when it comes to community input, I think that community input can very much come during the budget process, right? Because all of that is public information, public documentation. We can be very forthcoming to residents about like, hey, this is going to be on the agenda. Let's make sure, we want to hear from you. Like, are you in favor of how this budget is being proposed? Because when you look at the city's overall budget, salaries of council members, I think is not, it's important, but there are other services that are just as important to residents that we need to make sure that they are aware of.
And don't forget, when you're talking about council member salaries, you're also talking about your planning commission, your parks commission.
Absolutely.
So you've got all this involved too. So I think if, like I said, when we have our retreat, I think it'll be really good to have a real casual discussion, and before we go on to the agendized part of a meeting. So.
And I do think that there may be some confusion as well in the community, because people, when I talk to them, the things like, oh, you get paid, and I said, no, council members do not get paid, they get, and they're like, you don't get paid to do that? That's like a lot of work, and you don't get paid? So they may already think that we get paid, and they may not be against it. Sometimes I think they would have showed up and said, no, we disagree. So most people that I've encountered in the community believe we get paid, or believe the council members should be paid. And so we take this as community service. We do it now, but I am concerned that some people who are in the business world aren't able to serve because it does cost them money.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, you have direction? Thank you very much. So the next item will be a report by City Manager, Mr. Stillwell.
Sure, thank you, Madam Mayor. The next meeting of the City Council is April 4th. We do anticipate having a closed session and then 2 public hearings, one on the draft CDBG action plan, and then we plan to have the user fee update that was scheduled tonight on April 4th. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Okay, let's do council members' oral reports. Ms. Soto, let's start with you. Oh, okay.
On Monday, March 13th, I attended a meeting with city staff regarding our collaboration with the airport district. I don't know if they filled you in on that, Madam Mayor. I am happy to fill you in on that conversation.
You can go ahead and do that right now.
We're looking forward to continuing our longstanding partnership with the airport. Let's see, and on Wednesday, March 15th, Councilmember Escobedo and I, along with Assistant City Manager, Mr. Hackelman, we attended the Santa Maria and Santa Maria Airport District meeting, or quarterly meeting on the 15th. And, sorry, scrolling through my calendar. And I think that's it. That's all I have to report, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Aguilera Hernandez?
I think I mentioned at the last meeting that I did a reading at Taylor School, which I really enjoyed. A lot of the city employees did it too. I also attended the Housing, Community, and Economic Development Policy Committee. It was really interesting. It was the League of Cities. It's from 10 to 2, and they covered so much, including SB 4, which is going to expand on SB 35 and the CEQA requirements. Very interesting. And so that was probably the most important thing I did.
Thank you. Mr. Escobedo?
I'm working on it.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. On the 8th, there was a CCWA meeting that I had some technical difficulties with, but what we did was made it okay for some other districts, not our district, but for other districts to make some water transactions, and that was voted in without a problem.
We have enough water?
We have plenty of water.
Good. Oh, gosh.
Especially today. And on the 16th, I had a United Way meeting. We had this meeting in person, which was very different because, you know, we're used to having them virtually. And then on the 8th, I went to the International Women's Day. I got yelled at by the mayor because it was International Women's Day. But it was really very interesting.
I did not yell. I just said, what are you doing here?
Yeah. It was very interesting. The young lady that spoke was a real dynamic person, and she was from another country. And it was very interesting to listen to the comments that this person made and the comparison between the country she was from and the country of the United States of America. And I enjoyed the speaking myself, and I know that there was more than myself there, but as far as council members, but I stuck around to have a little bit more of a conversation with the young lady, and she was very interesting, very, very interesting and dynamic to listen to. She left me with a bit of fear, I think, for her and what she has to go through and what she was worried about. She was careful on what she said so that it doesn't come back on her and her family. It was just very interesting to have and be exposed to that kind of fear in a public setting. And I thoroughly enjoyed that. And I also enjoyed meeting her. That's it.
Thank you. Mr. Escobedo?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. On March 8th, I also attended the presentation in recognition of International Women's Day with the representation from, hopefully I'll pronounce it correctly, Dr. Golsnat Agaji from Iran. And it was just, as Mr. Cordero was mentioning, just incredible presentation, really engaging, a lot of wisdom, but at the same time gave us this, it was interesting how she mentioned that there's certain things a lot of things that we just take it for granted here in our country, that in her country, well, when she was living there and her family, would never imagine that they would be able to do. So that's, that, just gives you this perspective. And March 9th, that I attend the ribbon cutting ceremony of that one photo booth. And the same day, I attend the Boys and Girls Club Ron Estavillo Clubhouse grand opening in Guadalupe. It was raining, but it was at the same time packed. I would say that a good chunk of the people were relatives. He have a huge family, and people were talking about who Ron. I read about him, but listening from his family, it was just incredible what he did, and well deserved that recognition. And on March 15, I attended the City of Santa Maria Airport District meeting, and as Mr. Councilwoman Soto mentioned, looking forward to keep working together to have a successful city and a successful airport. Thank you.
Thank you. March 7th, I did the Ben Hayes Show in the morning. On the 8th of March, I attended the North County Subregional Planning Committee, and I went to the Women's Day presentation at our library. People, women and men, don't realize the kind of life that we live here in this country in comparison to what the women have to go through in other countries, not just Iran, but other countries where they're treated in such a different manner. March 9th, I did my teen council at Santa Maria High School, then went over to Pioneer High School. On the 10th, Fighting Back Santa Maria Valley Board meeting. On the 11th, there was an Eagle Scout Court of Honor where I presented certificates to 2 Eagle Scouts. On the 12th of March, I did the Alliance of Local Electeds. And again, the big topic there is housing, always housing. On March 15th, I attended the State of Vandenberg Space Force. And again, Colonel Long talked about how the lack of housing impacts Vandenberg. And I think I was telling Mr. Stillwell that sometimes we look at things in a very myopic way and just think it's Santa Maria. But if we don't build here in Santa Maria, and if they don't build in Lompoc the kind of housing that Vandenberg needs, Vandenberg is not going to succeed. And we talk about high-paying jobs. We really need to be complicit in that with Vandenberg and work closely with them. I attended, on Zoom, everything got switched around for the Planning Commission meeting, so I did the Hope Village on Zoom that evening. March 16th, I attended the SBCAG Executive Committee meeting and SBCAG Monthly Board meeting and the Air Pollution Control District meeting. On the 19th, again, I attended the Alliance of Local Electeds, and on the 20th yesterday, I attended the Bradley Square residents follow-up meeting with the parking and their concerns about crime in the area. And if there's no further order of business, this meeting concludes. Thank you.
Thank you.